What if he woke up on a spaceship and discovered that a terrifying creature was hunting the remaining crew? Two astronauts regain consciousness with no memory of what happened, only to find the massive vessel abandoned and drifting through deep space. Now, they must survive the monster lurking in the darkness before it finds them. The story begins in the year 2174, when Earth is pushed to the brink of extinction. As a final act of survival, over 60,000 people are placed into hypersleep aboard the massive colony ship Elysium, embarking on a one-way journey across the stars toward a distant world known as Tanis. The voyage will take more than a century, leaving the passengers asleep while the enormous vessel silently drifts through the endless darkness of space. Deep inside the cold steel chambers of the Elysium, Corporal Bower suddenly awakens from hypersleep in complete darkness. Disoriented and suffering from memory loss, he forces himself out of the pod and steps into the abandoned corridors of the ship. Searching for answers, he reaches his locker, gets dressed, and finds a photograph of a woman who also appears in his mysterious dreams. Still confused, he continues exploring until he discovers Lieutenant Payton's sealed hypersleep pod. After repeatedly calling out to him and trying to force it open, Bower fails to wake him. Moments later, a sudden power surge sends intense turbulence throughout the Elysium, violently shaking the entire ship and forcing Payton's pod to open. Weak and disoriented from hypersleep, Payton awakens, and Bower tells him everything he has discovered. However, neither of them can remember their mission, their destination, or why they were sent into space. The two make their way to the control station and attempt to contact the rest of the crew, but no one responds. As violent power surges continue to shake the ship, fragments of Bower's memory begin to return. He remembers that he is the ship's engineer and realizes the reactor is failing. If the power system collapses completely, everyone still alive aboard the Elysium will die. With time running out, Bower and Payton must uncover the truth before the ship becomes their grave. With the Elysium slowly losing power, Payton sends Bower through the ventilation shafts to restore the ship's systems while guiding him over the radio. As he crawls through the narrow passages, Bower suddenly loses his footing and drops into a lower section of the ship. He ends up hanging upside down beside a dead crew member, trapped in the cramped space with barely enough room to move. Luckily, he manages to force open a ceiling panel and pull himself out. He continues deeper into the abandoned corridors until he discovers a corpse hanging from the ceiling. As he investigates, a mysterious girl suddenly attacks him, steals some of his belongings, and flees when a terrifying scream echoes through the darkness. Following the sound, Bower witnesses an unknown creature dragging away the corpse and devouring it. He narrowly escapes and hides inside a maintenance shaft until the monster leaves. Afterward, fragments of his memory finally return. He remembers that the Elysium was carrying humanity on a one-way journey to colonize planet Tanis, and realizes that his wife may still be somewhere aboard the ship. After reconnecting with Payton, the two decide to search the Elysium, hoping to find their loved ones while uncovering the truth behind the ship's terrifying fate. After re-establishing contact with Payton, Bower heads to the security room and grabs a weapon before continuing toward the reactor. As power surges continue to shake the Elysium, Payton guides him through the damaged ship. But along the way, Bower's hand begins to tremble as he recalls a terrifying condition known as Pandorum. He and Payton discuss the disaster of the Eden mission, where the ship's captain suffered from space psychosis and believed the vessel was cursed. Driven insane, the captain murdered his crew and released all 5,000 passengers into space with a single push of a button. As Bower continues his journey, he discovers another survivor caught in a deadly booby trap. The man introduces himself as Shepard from Team 6, and after freeing himself, he covers his body in oil to hide his scent from the creature hunting them. Before they can escape, a horde of creatures suddenly appears, forcing them to flee deeper into the ship. They manage to hide, but the creature eventually finds them and drags Shepard away. Bower rushes to help, only to be stopped by a thick glass barrier. Trapped on the other side, he watches in horror as the pale, human-like creature brutally devours Shepard. Bower manages to escape and continues running through the ship, but the monster follows close behind. He trips over a wire and falls, but the trap catches his feet, leaving him hanging upside down. Before the creature can reach him, another survivor named Mon rescues him. Armed with primitive weapons, Mon speaks an unknown language, making it impossible for Bower to understand him. Bower continues searching for the reactor, but while exploring the ship, he opens a door that leads to a dangerous drop. Before he can react, the mysterious woman from earlier attacks him again. This time, Bower manages to fight back and throw her aside, but she quickly overpowers him and holds a knife against his throat. Just before she can strike, Mon appears and attacks her. The two engage in a fierce battle, matching each other's skills and refusing to back down. The fight continues until Bower fires a warning shot into the ceiling, causing debris to collapse around them. Using the moment to take control, Bower orders them to stop and explains his plan to reach the reactor and restore power to the Elysium. Mon immediately agrees to help him, but the woman refuses. Their argument is cut short when a terrifying growl echoes from the darkness, forcing them to leave before the creature finds them. Bower and Man continue their search for the reactor, but the woman, now revealed as Nadia, follows them and offers her help. She agrees to guide them, but only after confirming that Bower knows how to operate the ship in case they need to land. Nadia eventually leads them to her hidden hideout, entering the room just moments before the creature reaches them. Inside the chamber, Nadia reveals the truth about the room they entered. It is a biological preservation chamber containing the last remaining samples of Earth's plants and animal DNA created for humanity's future colony. She explains that she remembers everything about the Elysium, but nothing from before the mission, not even her own family. Unlike Bower, Nadia remained awake aboard the ship for months, forcing her to become a ruthless scavenger willing to do whatever it took to survive. Yet beneath her hardened exterior is a brilliant biologist who once dedicated her life to preserving Earth's ecosystem for the colonization mission. Meanwhile, strange noises begin echoing through the vents until another survivor named Corporal Gallo suddenly emerges from the darkness, crawling through a mass of wires. Covered in blood and appearing mentally unstable, Gallo introduces himself as a survivor from a previous flight crew. As Bower, Nadia, and Mon continue their descent deeper into the Elysium, they discover massive chambers filled with abandoned sleeping pods. Many of the pods are empty, suggesting that these areas have become the creature's main hunting grounds. With every level they explore, they uncover more evidence that the civilization aboard the Elysium collapsed centuries ago. As they continue to descend, Bower suddenly loses his footing and falls, with Nadia falling after him. They are horrified to discover a massive pile of human bones beneath the water, revealing the terrifying fate of those who never survived. As they remain still, a creature passes above them, unaware of their presence. Believing the danger has passed, they attempt to climb back up, but the creature suddenly attacks Bower, leaving him disoriented. Nadia tries to help, but the creature catches her off guard and nearly kills her. Regaining his strength, Bower fights back, but the monster's superior power quickly overwhelms him and throws him aside. Just as the creature prepares to finish them, Mon arrives and joins the fight. Together, the three survivors battle the creature and manage to bring it down. Moments after killing the creature, the three of them find themselves surrounded by a horde of monsters. With no time to fight back, the three survivors run for their lives, desperately leaping across sleeping pods as the creatures close in on them. Just as the monsters are about to catch them, another sleeping pod suddenly opens, awakening a helpless survivor. However, his chance of survival is brief. The creatures immediately turn their attention toward him, allowing Bower, Nadia, and Man to escape. After surviving the brutal chase, the group discovers a hidden chamber deep inside the ship, where they encounter a strange survivor named Leland, who was once the Elysium's cook. At first, he refuses to come down because he does not trust them, but he still offers the exhausted group with food and temporary shelter. As they recover, Bower and Nadia discuss what could have happened to the Elysium. Nadia believes the disaster may have been caused by the ship's life extension program, where passengers were injected with a genetic adaptation enzyme through their feeding tubes during hypersleep. The enzyme was designed to help humanity evolve and survive on the distant planet Tanis, but instead, it adapted their bodies to survive the harsh conditions of the ship, turning them into terrifying creatures. Still confused, Bower questions why they did not suffer the same fate. Nadia explains that the creatures had remained awake for centuries, giving their bodies enough time to evolve and completely adapt into their monstrous forms. Leland suddenly interrupts their conversation and reveals the terrifying truth behind the fall of the Elysium. Through the strange drawings covering his walls, he explains what happened to the ship's 3 command officers. After learning that Earth had already been destroyed, the officers descended into madness and turned on one another until only one remained. Declaring himself the king of the ship, he awakened a handful of passengers and ruled over them. Anyone who opposed him was banished to the cargo hold, where they were forced to scavenge for food and even turn against one another to survive. Eventually, the self-proclaimed king returned to hypersleep, abandoning the remaining survivors. Over the centuries, those left behind slowly evolved into the monstrous creatures that now roam the Elysium. As Leland finishes his story, smoke suddenly pours through the room's vents, causing Bower, Nadia, and Man to cough uncontrollably before they slowly lose consciousness. Later that night, Bower awakens to find himself hanging upside down beside Nadia and Mon. Nearby, Leland calmly sharpens his knives before revealing that he plans to butcher and eat them to survive. Broken by years of isolation, he explains that morality no longer exists aboard the Elysium, and that survival is the only law left. As the group desperately struggles to break free, Bower insists that he can still save the ship. Leland dismisses the claim at first, but Bower explains that the Elysium is on the verge of a total power failure. Having witnessed the constant power surges, Leland realizes Bower is telling the truth. Convinced that restoring the reactor is their only chance of survival, he frees the group and agrees to lead them to it. Elsewhere, the tension between Payton and Gallo continues to escalate. Gallo becomes increasingly aggressive and accuses Payton of suffering from Pandorum. As paranoia and hallucinations consume the command chamber, Gallo reveals the horrifying truth about the Elysium. He explains that the ship did not simply lose control. Centuries earlier, its crew descended into madness after discovering that Earth had already been destroyed. Gallo then urges Payton to abandon the Elysium by launching the escape pod. As his condition rapidly worsens, blood begins to pour from his nose, making it clear that he is slowly losing his grip on reality. After learning that only 47 minutes remain before the Elysium loses power completely, Bower, Nadia, Man, and Leland rush toward the reactor. Before they can reach it, a horde of creatures begins chasing them, forcing the group to take refuge in a chamber reserved for the flight crew's families. There, Bower's memories finally return. He realizes his wife had left him before the mission, and that he accepted the one-way journey because he had nothing left to lose. Overwhelmed by the truth, he nearly gives up, but Nadia encourages him to keep moving. Determined to finish the mission, the group finally reaches the reactor chamber, only to discover that it has become the nesting ground of thousands of sleeping creatures beneath the reactor core. Bower carefully crosses a narrow bridge, but it suddenly begins to collapse. Mon catches him before he falls, while Nadia rushes over to help. Realizing the bridge will not hold, Bower intentionally drops to the lower level to prevent it from crashing into the horde below. He covers himself with the creature's skin and quietly makes his way through the nest. Just as he is about to climb back up, Leland accidentally drops his light, awakening the creatures. To buy Bower more time, Mon deliberately lures the horde away while Bower races to repair the reactor. As countless creatures swarm toward them, Bower successfully restores power to the Elysium just in time, allowing the group to escape the reactor chamber. At the same moment, Gallo and Payton continue arguing until their confrontation turns violent. As the fight intensifies, the shocking truth inside the command chamber is finally revealed. Payton never existed. He was nothing more than a hallucination created by Corporal Gallo's fractured mind after centuries of isolation and the devastating effects of Pandorum. The elderly man inside the command chamber is the real Gallo, the last surviving command officer of the Elysium. Elsewhere, Mon manages to escape the horde, but one creature continues to pursue him. This time, he refuses to run and chooses to fight. Although the creature quickly gains the upper hand, it leaves itself exposed when it bites him. Seizing the opportunity, Mon stabs the creature and kills it. Wounded but still alive, he continues forward until a childlike creature suddenly appears. Believing it to be harmless, Mon lowers his weapon and spares its life. In an instant, the creature slashes his throat, killing him on the spot. Meanwhile, Leland arrives at the command chamber and approaches Gallo, believing he is an ally. He explains that they have successfully restored the ship's power, but Gallo suddenly injects a syringe directly into his eye. Leland collapses to the floor and slowly dies. With the power restored, Gallo wastes no time sealing the doors behind him before making his way to the bridge to carry out his final plan. After centuries of madness, he believes he is the rightful ruler of the Elysium, and the bridge is the only place where he can keep his terrifying illusion alive. Moments later, Bower and Nadia reach the control chamber just before the doors close, narrowly escaping the pursuing horde. They continue toward the bridge, where Bower reveals that his memories have fully returned. He realizes the man he had been speaking to was never Lieutenant Payton. Without hesitation, the elderly man reveals his true identity as Corporal Gallo. Bower finally uncovers the horrifying truth. Gallo was the one who received the Elysium's final transmission, remained awake, broke the rotation, and slaughtered his own crew. Gallo then opens the observation hatch, revealing an endless darkness with no stars in sight, a chilling sign that the ship is no longer in space. As Pandorum completely consumes him, Gallo tries to convince Bower to join his delusion. Their confrontation comes to an abrupt halt when something suddenly scrapes across the ship's hull. In that moment, they realize the unimaginable. The Elysium had crashed beneath the oceans of planet Tanis centuries ago. Gallo launches one final assault and quickly gains the upper hand against Bower. Nadia rushes in to help, but even with her combat skills, she is no match for Gallo. As Gallo holds a knife to Nadia's throat, a creature suddenly breaks into the bridge. With no other option left, Bower fires his weapon. The shot kills the creature, but it also ruptures part of the ship's structure and shatters the observation window. A massive surge of water crashes into the command deck, sweeping Gallo away as the Elysium begins to flood. Bower and Nadia barely make it into an emergency escape pod before the ship is completely overwhelmed. As the Elysium slowly fills with water, its emergency evacuation system finally activates. One by one, thousands of escape pods launch from the ship and rise through the dark ocean toward the surface, carrying the last surviving humans away from the doomed vessel and toward a new beginning. After centuries of isolation, madness, and unimaginable sacrifice, humanity is finally given a second chance as the survivors begin a new chapter on planet Tanis.